My daughter, 32 years old, finally got married last week. She and her now husband have been together for 11 plus years, and this is something the whole family had been waiting for a long time. They had been engaged for 4 years, and I honestly didn't think her man would ever take the plunge. She called me 2 months ago, and we got busy getting ready. She already had her dress. They just wanted a small wedding with family and a few friends. I offered to make her bouquet, and then we decided I would make all the corsages and boutonnieres. I told her it was my gift, even though the amount changed, and she did offer to help pay. It was my gift, so I just dealt with it. They had a hard time finding a place for the wedding. I'm a member of a veterans organization, so I suggested having it at the local post, and I would reserve it. I made a donation to them as well, even though they let us use the facilities for no charge. Both my oldest daughter, bride's sister, and I were worried about my ex-husband and his wife and their drama during the wedding, but we were determined that this was the youngest's day, and we would deal with whatever. I got to the place to set up, and my ex got there soon after. And no, he didn't offer to help, just stood around watching us move chairs and tables. After the ceremony, I was still working in the background getting the place cleaned up as there was another event happening after us, and waiting for my turn for a picture. As I was putting everything away, I noticed everyone had left for the reception without grabbing me for a picture. I thought, okay, we'll get a picture at the reception, which was at a different location. I got there, and my kids were waiting on me to enter. I did, then the new couple entered, and I went to see about the picture, and of course got pulled away for help with the food. It was quick, but when I went to get my daughter, she had already changed, and I had to help with something else. I got so busy I didn't think about it until we all got back to their house, and by then, I was so tired I just went to bed. I thought I let it go until a few days later, my daughter texted me and oldest in a group text and asked us to send any pictures we took. My husband sent me what he took, and then was upset with himself for not having any pictures of me, but he had some with her and my ex. That's when I realized they completely ignored me during that time. I texted that somehow I wasn't in any pictures, and oldest wondered if the photographer got any with me. I said probably not, because no one came to get me for pictures. Dead silence from both girls for 2 days. I was so hurt, and I didn't want to talk to anyone because I didn't want to say something I might regret. The youngest still hasn't even reached out to me, but she did talk to her brother who knew how hurt I was, and she said she was going to make it up to me. Am I the idiot for being upset and feeling slighted about this and not wanting to let her make it up to me? Edit. My kids and I are all pretty close, even though we live miles apart. The photographer was a friend of the bride and groom. My oldest is an actual wedding photographer, and she reached out and said she should have known better and said something, and she feels terrible. The oldest was the officiant for the wedding, but totally hates her bio dad and stepmom and avoided them as much as possible. I appreciate all the comments and will update if the bride talks to me. Edit 2. I and my ex walked my daughter down the aisle. That was her request that I give her away. She then added her dad to that later. I enjoyed the wedding ceremony very much. Mini update. I appreciate all the comments and advice, even the ones that came across as trolls. I called my daughter after work, and she felt horrible and explained what happened with the pictures and why they didn't grab me. It's all good. When she texted us asking for all the pictures anyone took, it was because the photographer, not a professional, didn't check her camera before the wedding, and none of the pictures turned out. Luckily, her new sisters-in-law took tons on their phones to send to their parents who were out of country and got amazing pictures of me and my daughter walking down the aisle. That's all I wanted. Now I feel horrible because she doesn't have some of the great shots she should have because the person taking the official pictures didn't bother to check her camera. Thanks again for all the kind words, advice, and support. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You made the flowers, sorted the venue, and helped set up and tidy away. And they forgot the mother of the bride in photos? How? You're right to be upset, And why hasn't she contacted you in those 2 days apologizing? Comment 2. My missing context senses are tingling. I know wedding photographers getting pictures with parents is pretty high on their list of priorities. Now, for the update. Since the wedding, things have been tense, to say the least. My daughter, the bride, finally reached out to me. She called, and her voice was shaking. She apologized for the whole mess with the pictures. She said she was caught up in the whirlwind of the day and didn't realize I had been left out until it was too late. She promised to make it up to me, but I couldn't shake off the feeling of being an afterthought on such an important day. The conversation was awkward. She tried to explain how things got so chaotic, and I tried to be understanding. I know weddings can be hectic, but that didn't completely ease the sting. We ended the call on an okay note, but there was still a heaviness that lingered between us. In the days that followed, my oldest daughter, the efficient, and I had a long talk. She felt guilty for not stepping in. She's been in the wedding business long enough to know how these things go, and blamed herself for not making sure I was included in the photos. We both agreed that it wasn't her responsibility, but I appreciated her concern. My ex-husband hasn't said much about the whole situation. He's never been one for confrontation or admitting when he's wrong. His wife, on the other hand, has been oddly quiet. I expected some sort of snide remark or gloating, but nothing. It's almost more unsettling than if she had said something. The relationship with my son-in-law has been a bit strained, too. He's always been like a son to me, and I love him dearly, but I can't help but feel a little resentment. He's been trying to stay neutral, but I can tell he's torn between his wife and the rest of her family. As for the rest of the family, they've been supportive. My husband has been my rock, reassuring me that my feelings are valid and that it's okay to be upset. My other kids have been checking in on me, making sure I'm doing all right. The bride's brother, who knew how hurt I was, has been trying to mediate. He's been talking to his sister, trying to get her to understand the full extent of how her actions, or lack thereof, affected me. He's been a great support, but I can tell it's taking a toll on him, being stuck in the middle. In an attempt to make amends, my daughter has been sending me pictures that her sisters-in-law took. There are some beautiful shots of the ceremony, and yes, there are a few of me walking her down the aisle. But every time I look at them, I'm reminded of the pictures that should have been. The ones with just me and her, the ones that would have captured our relationship. She's also been talking about organizing a small get-together, a sort of post-wedding celebration where we can take some of the pictures we missed out on. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Part of me wants to have those pictures, to have something to look back on, but another part of me feels like it's too little, too late. The whole situation has left me feeling disconnected from my daughter. We used to talk almost every day, but now our conversations are brief and superficial. I miss her, but I'm also still hurt. I'm not sure how to bridge that gap, or if it's even possible at this point. I've been doing a lot of thinking, trying to figure out where to go from here. Do I just accept the apology and move on, or do I hold on to my hurt a little longer? I don't want this to cause a permanent rift in our family, but I also don't want my feelings to be brushed aside. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding, and I'm still in limbo. I'm waiting for something to change, for some sort of resolution, but it hasn't come yet. I'm stuck in this uncomfortable place, not knowing if I should push for more or just let it go. So, that's where things stand. I'm still hurt, still waiting for a proper resolution, and still not sure how to feel about my daughter's attempts to make things right. It's not the update I hoped to give, but it's the truth of where we are right now. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Oh, honey, it sounds like you got the short end of the bouquet toss. I'd say, put on your best frock, grab a glass of bubbly, and have that post-wedding photo shoot. It's like a second chance prom, but this time you're guaranteed to be prom queen. Comment 2. Did the photographer have a shot list? It's odd they missed you. Maybe accept the olive branch and suggest a heart-to-heart with your daughter. Clear the air and let her know how you feel. Family photos can be retaken, but mending fences should be top priority. Now, for the next story. I, 47-year-old female, woke up yesterday morning to an email from my husband of 21 years, 50-year-old male, entitled Working Things Out. Very deceptive title, because instead of arranging a meeting or even a phone call, my husband goes on a 4-paragraph soapbox speech about how marriage is supposed to be, for the most part, an in-person commitment, and that it pains him to say this, but this cannot go on anymore. He goes on in a very clinical, detached tone to describe how us not speaking for a week before our big fight and then not hearing from me for the week afterwards is abandonment for him, so he's filing for divorce. He then asked me to tell me what things of mine I wanted him to ship and that he wants to do things fairly via mediation. Also said he'd only be responding to calls regarding our daughter and to contact his lawyer for everything else. This is the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Because leading up to Thanksgiving, he's already been complaining that he's spending the holidays alone, and it's all my fault. For a little context, I moved with my daughter, 16-year-old female, from Kentucky to Atlanta 3 years ago because she wants to get into acting and singing. She's now attending a performing arts high school and trying to make a living acting. My husband was supportive at first. He sent in 60 applications to jobs in Atlanta, but even though he's been a manager at a motel for 13 years here, he only got entry-level interviews. My husband initially said there's FaceTime and he has airline points, but soon I saw how inflexible he was. Every conversation was unbearable because if I picked his brain, I knew I'd be running into a brick wall. Instead of learning to enjoy long distance, it was like, fulfilling marriage long distance? Nope. He asked us to move back during the actors' strike. At that time, we had already agreed he could have intimacy with others as long as he fulfilled his other obligations. He agreed to our arrangement, but dumped the woman after a month and got more petty, saying the women he wants wouldn't be into married men. Our final fight was over when I said we were going to have a virtual Thanksgiving with my mom and wish her recovery from her surgery. He said, "Why don't you come back and tell her in person?" He also said instead of me giving input over Christmas decorations, to come back and do it in person. He said he had more intimacy with the escort than me because it was in person, and I called him a hospitality manager stereotype, unable to adapt to any change and stuck in his path. The fury boiled over after his email, and I replied and CC'd the extended family, friends who only hear from him and his side, and his co-worker, friend of the family. Just to tell them that the man who says he's the peacemaker is divorcing me over email, and that he's been seeing other women and saying that his 1-month fling with an escort was more fulfilling. Am I the idiot? My only regret is that a friend's kid got a hold of the email, and I've had to shield my daughter and explain that her dad is divorcing me. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot for a million reasons, the least of which is abandoning your husband because your 13-year-old wants to act and misleading your friends and family into thinking he cheated on you. It doesn't even sound like you want to be married, other than the fact that he pays the bills. Comment 2. You're the idiot. I mean, to be fair, you won't go see him in person. It was either going to be email or a phone call. His lawyer is probably advising him to get everything in writing in case you do something crazy, and you just obliged him. Now, for the update. So, it's been a week since that bombshell email from my husband, and let me tell you, things have not calmed down one bit. After I sent that reply and CC'd everyone, it was like I'd lit a match in a room full of fireworks. My phone blew up with calls and messages from family and friends, each one more shocked or angry than the last. My husband's co-worker, who I thought was a friend of the family, called me up and gave me an earful about airing our dirty laundry in public. He said I should have kept things private, but honestly, at that point, I was past caring about privacy. My daughter has been a rock through all of this, but I can tell it's taking a toll on her. She's been quieter than usual, and I've caught her on the phone late at night, probably talking to her friends about all this mess. I hate that she's getting dragged into adult problems, but I don't know how to shield her from this any better than I already am. As for my husband, he's been true to his word about only talking to me about our daughter. He's called a couple of times to check in on her, but the conversations are short and cold. He's like a stranger to me now. I can't believe this is the same man I've been married to for over 2 decades. The mediation process has started, and it's as fun as a trip to the dentist. We've been going back and forth on who gets what, and I can tell this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. He's already fighting me on some of the sentimental items that I want to keep. It's like he's doing it out of spite, not because he actually wants those things. And then there's Thanksgiving. It was the most awkward holiday I've ever had. My mom is still recovering from her surgery, so I couldn't leave her alone. We ended up having a small dinner, just the 3 of us, and I tried to keep the mood light for my daughter's sake. But the empty seat at the table was like a silent scream, reminding us of the gaping hole in our family. I've been trying to keep busy, focusing on work and taking care of my mom, but it's hard. I feel like I'm walking around with this heavy weight on my chest all the time. I miss the man my husband used to be, the one who would have never dreamed of ending things over an email. And then there's the fallout from the email I sent. Some of our mutual friends have taken sides, and it's like high school all over again with the gossip and the backstabbing. I've had a few people reach out to me to offer their support, but it's been overshadowed by the negativity and the judgment. I've been second-guessing my decision to send that email every day. Maybe I should have kept things private, dealt with it behind closed doors. But then I get angry all over again, thinking about how he's been with other women and how he's the one who decided to end our marriage with a few paragraphs in an email. The worst part is the uncertainty of it all. I don't know what my life is going to look like in a month, 6 months, a year from now. I don't know how my relationship with my daughter will be affected by all this. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust someone again after the way my husband has betrayed me. So, here I am, a week later, still trying to pick up the pieces of my life. I'm angry, I'm hurt, and I'm scared. But I'm also determined to get through this, for my daughter's sake, if nothing else. I just hope that when all is said and done, I can look back on this time and know that I did everything I could to make the best out of a terrible situation. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. You didn't just stir the pot, you flipped it. While I get the urge to blast him to the moon with that email, airing dirty laundry in space isn't NASA's latest mission. Next time, maybe just write a scathing draft and delete it. Less drama, more zen. Comment 2. Navigating this minefield is tough. Consider mediation or counseling to handle the communication breakdown. It's important to keep things civil for your daughter's sake. And maybe find a support group. They're like having a personal army of wisdom for these kinds of battles. Stay strong. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.